Every single day, our information is being collected, right? But what are the rules of the road? Well, welcome to Privacy 101. This is your crash course in protecting personal data. Let's just dive right in. Just think about it for a second. Security cameras are literally everywhere, on street corners, in stores, probably at your job. They're capturing a massive amount of information. But who gets to see that footage? What are the rules? That's exactly what we're going to dig into. Okay, first things first, let's tackle the biggest question of all. Why does any of this privacy stuff even matter? Well, it all comes down to this really delicate balance between keeping things secure and earning the public's trust. See, here's the fundamental tension. Good security often needs information, but privacy laws, they act as a super important check on that power. They create the rulebook that says, hey, you can only gather data when it's absolutely necessary and for the right reasons. So this isn't about stopping security, not at all. It's about doing it the right way. And this quote really gets to the heart of it. Trust is everything. People are willing to cooperate, to help out, when they feel confident that their personal data is going to be handled responsibly. Real security isn't just about cameras and locks. It's built on a foundation of public trust. So what does this rulebook actually look like? Let's get into the specifics of the laws that tell us how our data should be handled. Generally, these laws break down into two main types. For example, in places like Nova Scotia, you've got something called FOIPOP for public bodies. That's your government departments, schools, that kind of thing. Then, for private businesses, you have a federal law, like PIPEDA. The big takeaway here is that depending on who has your data, a whole different set of rules might apply. So what exactly are these laws trying to protect? Well, it all revolves around one key concept: personal information. And honestly, the definition is way broader than you might think. It could be your name, your address, even just your picture on a security camera. If someone can look at a piece of data and reasonably figure out it's about you, then boom, it's personal information. And this brings us to what is, without a doubt, the absolute cornerstone of all privacy law: meaningful consent. An organization can't just take your data. They have to be crystal clear about why they want it, and then they have to get your permission first. It's not a real yes unless you truly understand what you're agreeing to. Okay, so we've covered the why and the what. Now it's time for the how. Let's look at how all these legal ideas actually play out in the real world through a few core principles. The first principle is all about minimalism. Only collect the absolute bare minimum you need for a specific legitimate reason. And once you have it, that's it. You can't just use it for something else down the line. Say you collect an email for a newsletter. You can't then turn around and start using it for a totally different marketing campaign. In the real world, this principle is all about daily discipline. It means keeping those visitor logs simple, not adding extra fluff. It's about writing incident reports with only the necessary facts. It means not asking for someone's ID just because you can. And this one's huge: not sharing information with a coworker who doesn't have a legitimate need to know. Next up, our second core principle: accuracy. Now, this sounds pretty obvious, right? But it's so important that the information being held about a person is actually correct. I mean, really important decisions can be made based on this data, so it absolutely has to be reliable, complete, and up to date. So in practice, this just means sticking to the facts, period. When you're writing a report, you record what you saw. The individual left at 2:30 p.m., not what you think happened, like the individual fled the scene. You gotta avoid opinions, assumptions, all that guesswork. And if you spot a mistake, you fix it immediately. Our third principle is all about safeguards. Once you've collected that information correctly, you now have a duty to protect it. And the level of protection has to match how sensitive the info is. Think about it. Health records need way stronger safeguards than, say, a public business address. And when we talk about safeguards, it's not just one thing. It's really a combination of approaches. You've got your physical safeguards, like an actual locked filing cabinet. You've got technical ones, like passwords and encryption. And then you have administrative safeguards, which are things like policies that limit who can even access specific data in the first place. Okay, now that we know the principles, let's put them to the test with a really common real-world scenario. This is where all that theory becomes practice. So picture this. You're at work and a police officer walks in. They want to see some security footage and they say they need it right away. But they don't have a warrant or any other legal paperwork. They say they'll get it later. It feels urgent. What do you do? What's the right call? So, what's the move?
The most crucial thing to remember is this: you do not just hand over the footage. The correct and professional procedure is to politely refer the request to your supervisor or your designated privacy officer. You need to state that you require proper legal authority, like a warrant. The only, and I mean only, exception is a documented immediate emergency, and even then, you have to follow official policy to the letter.
And what about those less formal requests? You know, a curious neighbor asking what you saw on the cameras. You need a go-to phrase. Just remember this simple, professional, and really powerful sentence: I'm not able to share that information. It's polite, it's firm, and it just ends the conversation right there.
All right, for our final section, let's clear up two words that people use interchangeably all the time, but they actually mean very different things: privacy and confidentiality. This table lays it out pretty perfectly. Think of it this way: privacy is a person's right to control their own information. It's about what can be collected in the first place. Confidentiality, on the other hand, is the duty to protect that information once it's been collected. It's all about who's allowed to access or share it. So here's the key takeaway, the one thing to burn into your memory: all personal information must be kept confidential. But, and this is the important part, not all confidential information is personal. A company's secret recipe is definitely confidential, but it's not personal information under privacy law. It's a critical one-way street. We've covered a ton of ground, from the big laws to the nitty-gritty principles you can use every day. So the real question is for you. Now that you understand this framework, are you going to see the data you share and the data you handle a little differently from now on?